There's a lot of chatter about who the Reds' fifth starter is going to be on opening day, but I'm telling you what, it's going to be Chase Burns, and I don't understand anybody else.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Thanks for your help in getting us there. We are, as always, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name is Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love talking about those things, so much so that we've been doing it for a combined 16 seasons now, I think, in podcast form. Lots of Reds talk. We love talking Reds baseball with you. On today's podcast, a little bit later, we're going to be talking about the fact that the last spot in the Reds bullpen in 2026 may be decided by remaining options and not necessarily by talent alone. We're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. We're also hearing from Goodyear already some surprising news. One of the news bits that dropped this week is that Spencer Steer is probably going to be the everyday left fielder making a return to the outfield, which is a bit of a surprise given some of the things that were said this offseason. We're going to talk about that here in just a couple minutes, but where we're going to start is with the conversations that are surrounding the Reds' fifth starter, because Chase Burns had himself quite a year last year with Rhett Lowder on the injured list. Rhett Lowder coming back from injury, going to be battling for that spot. But what we're hearing is Rhett Lowder is the favorite, and I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. And that is, in fact, where we are going to start today's show, Jeff, because it's really a three-horse race for this fifth starter spot. You've got Chase Burns, who I think has to be the favorite just from a what have you done for me lately kind of view. Then you've got Rhett Lowder, who's coming back from injury, who had an admirable beginning to his major league career in an emergency situation 2 years ago when the Reds looked around and were like, well, it's either going to be Rhett Lowder or David Bell pitching today. Yeah. We're not sure which one of those things are going to happen. But then you've got kind of the dark horse of this three-man competition, which is Brandon Williamson, who's coming off of Tommy John, who's coming back as a veteran who has done it before. He's been a starter. He's had success. Even though David Bell's era in Cincinnati didn't have a lot of confidence in him, he did a lot of good things, and he grew as a starter while he was in the big league rotation. So you've got those three guys competing for this spot. And I look at this, and I think your cold open is kind of where I'm landing. It's Chase Burns' job to lose, I would think, heading into this competition based on what he's done, what he did, his willingness to do whatever it was to help the team win last year, going to the bullpen, pitching in relief, extending his innings, things like that. While you've got Rhett Lowder, who, great, he's healthy. Everybody thinks he's good to go, but he's also coming off of a year out of Major League Baseball where I would think you want to bring his arm along carefully. And I don't know that March, April in Cincinnati is what you do with an arm that you're trying to bring along carefully. So I think there would be some real concerns for me of having Rhett Lowder in the rotation to begin the season.
I think that's the important part of this, Steve, is that in this argument, discussion, debate, whatever you want to call it, about the fifth starter for the Cincinnati Reds, I think it's clear that when Chase Burns earns this spot for the opening day appointment, it's not going to be, we're getting 30 starts out of him because he's going to have an innings limit on him this year. It's going to be he is pitching a lot early. Rhett Lowder's pitching a lot late. Maybe they save some in the take for Chase Burns that he's able to pitch in the playoffs and things like that. But there's so many people that watch these two guys and say, Rhett Lowder is intriguing, but Chase Burns is everything. Like, there's so many people that are projecting Chase Burns to be amazing. And the different projection systems that are out there, we talked about them a little bit. They don't love the Reds as a whole. They love Chase Burns individually, even knowing that he's only going to throw a little bit over 100 innings. And I think that everybody differs as to how many innings past that 100 inning mark he will go. They still have him as one of the most valuable pitchers on this team. It's because his stuff is amazing. He has the ridiculous kind of pitches to get any lineup out. His command is really good with that too. It's still developing. It's not perfect, but it's really good. He's starting at a baseline that is much higher than a lot of other guys. And ultimately, his makeup is that of an ace. While Rhett Lowder was a guy that whenever the Reds drafted him, scouts were saying, this dude is a very solid middle of the rotation type of pitcher. Everybody sees Chase Burns as an ace. So I think that this is something where we're having a little bit of, what have you done for me lately? But we're also having a little bit of, well, we haven't seen this guy in a long time, so maybe he is better than what we have seen. And I don't find that to be the case at all. Like, I think that Chase Burns is clearly better than Rhett Lowder right now. I think his career will be better than Rhett Lowder. And I think that we need to give Rhett Lowder some time down in Louisville to get his arm reacclimated to pitching every fifth day. And then we'll see him, I don't know, May, June, whatever it is. He's going to get worked into the rotation. I would expect that he has almost as many games started as Chase Burns. It's not going to be right away.
I think they have to be a little bit out of the box. We've commended them for doing things differently this offseason. I think they need to do things a little bit differently when they get into this season. You look at Chase Burns in 2025, just as a refresher, in case folks have forgotten, 2025 for 22-year-old Chase Burns started in Dayton.
Yeah.
He started in Dayton. He went to Chattanooga. He went to Louisville, and then he came to Cincinnati and did the things he did for the big league club. Of all those levels, when you combine the numbers, Jeff, he threw 109 and a third innings in 26 appearances, some of those relief appearances. 150 innings from Chase Burns in 2026 is a stretch. That is really stretching out his arm, because that's going to be major league innings against major league batters with the adrenaline and all the things that come with that.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a big jump. And if he does that, great. If I were in charge of handling how this fifth starter situation would go, whoever starts the season as a fifth starter for the Reds is going to get you through July. Probably. I'm delaying the start of the next guy. Whether it's Lowder or Burns, I'm delaying his start. I'm skipping turns for him in Louisville. I'm keeping him loose. I'm keeping him fresh. I'm keeping him healthy. And then right about June 1st, I let him spin it up and I let him start doing his things to be ready, so that when you get into July, that guy's ready to replace whoever's been pitching in Cincinnati and needs to be shut down or dialed back or whatever needs to be done. And here's why you have the luxury to do that. It's because the guy we're not talking about. It's because of Brandon Williamson. I've got him at Louisville. He is my number one call up when there's an injury. He's my number one guy. I look as the fifth starter for the Reds as being two people in 2026. It is Burns and Lowder taking turns being that starter. Brandon Williamson is your next guy in the depth chart that comes up if, little Dolo has the flu or whatever happens and they need a start out of a guy. That's Brandon Williamson. And then your emergency cat that's down there like, man, I hope I get a chance, is Chase Petty. That guy's down there just doing his things as your emergency guy. If I were in charge of handling this starting rotation and this group of starting pitchers, that's how I would do it to ensure that fifth starter is covered for a potential October run. And that's the way you do it. You delay somebody. And I think it's Rhett Lowder. I think that's who you delay.
And I think the key with all of this is you didn't say move somebody to the bullpen, because I did see that. I saw Mark Sheldon's article where he was talking about maybe Chase Burns starts in the bullpen. I don't see that at all. I think you keep all those guys stretched out as starting pitchers, because here's the deal. If I do like a little bit of math, if I just assume that every starter averages 6 innings this year, you are going to need 194 innings out of your number 5 starter. So you're not going to get all 194 from one guy, even if it's Rhett Lowder. If Rhett Lowder's your opening day 5th starter, I'm not saying he's signed up for 30 starts. He's signed up for somewhere between 15 and 20. Chase Burns is signed up for somewhere between 15 and 20. And that's how you kind of put those two guys together. I feel really good about those two guys equaling 32 starts at some point. They might actually equal more than that based on how some other injuries go along. But I don't think any one of those guys is going to get all of them. So with the caveat of, I believe Chase Burns is your opening day 5th starter, I also don't expect that to be written in stone, absolutely unmovable. We will see plenty of strategizing around that to keep those guys fresh and to make sure that not only does this year become valuable for them, but so do the following years, because you're not going to throw their arms out of their sockets. And I know this.
Just a quick refresher before we move on. Rhett Lowder in 2024 made 6 big league starts and did a fantastic job. A great introduction.
How many did you say there? 6, right? Not 26, because I feel like some people think it's 26.
He had 22 starts that year in the minors, 6 big league starts. In 2025, with all of his on-again, off-again arm injury situation that he had, he appeared in 6 baseball games in 2025.
Didn't realize.
Between 5. Between all levels in 2025, he made 5 starts. His arm needs to be babied coming into this season. So I think I'm sticking with my plan, Jeff. I'm delaying his start.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I know this though, Steve, when it comes to the lineup, we have had questions quite a bit about the outfield and left field in particular, because it looks like it's some sort of platoon, and how's that platoon going to shape out? Not so fast, says Terry Francona, because Spencer Steer, he ain't going to set a bench too much.
Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want the candidates who match what you've been looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who can check all of the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your day, and thank you for making us your first listen when you do. You know, you always you live your team every day. Now take it up a notch. Go ad free and check out the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonreds.supercast.com. It's $5 a month or $50 for the whole year. You get an ad-free feed on your audio side. You'll also get members-only Discord access and so much more. You can learn more. The link is also in the description of today's episode, so you don't want to type it all out, you can just copy paste it from there. All right, Steve, my goofy way of saying it notwithstanding, Terry Francona, at least through what Charlie Goldsmith had to say on the Power Stacks podcast, said that Spencer Steer is being looked at as the everyday left fielder as of right now. Now, this is the beginning of camp that we're talking about this. Opening day is not tomorrow, so I don't expect this to be gospel right away. But the fact that this is the starting point, you know, we talk about this sometimes with like college football or college basketball. It's like, okay, you might be number 1 for week 1, but what are you at the end of the season? If you're starting out that high anyway, then you're starting out with a leg up. The fact that the Reds see Spencer Steer as an everyday left fielder right now tells me that through camp, they will have to be proven otherwise for there to be this every other day platoon that we had initially envisioned even as much as just a couple of days ago.
This opens up some real intriguing possibilities. If the depth chart is now starting with Spencer Steer at the top of it in left field, it makes the battle between JJ Bleday and Will Benson more interesting. It makes what happens with Sal Stewart a little more interesting, because basically that means that they're looking at Sal Stewart as the primary first baseman from jump, versus he has to earn his way into it, play his way into it, do whatever. It's going to be Sal with Gino getting some starts over there when Sal gets a rest, or they'll trade between the DH spot and the first base spot. It makes things very interesting. And I love the lineup this way. It's going to make the outfield very interesting when they're facing left-handed pitching. TJ Friedl will sit in this scenario. Dane Meyer will be in center field. You'd have Spencer Steer in right and Noelvi Marte Spencer Steer in left, Noelvi Marte in right. So that would be your outfield against left-handed pitching. with Friedel on the bench versus his everyday role that he's had the last few years, whether it was a righty or a lefty on the mound. This makes for some interesting lineup possibilities. It doesn't mean that Terry Francona is not going to still move guys around. It doesn't mean that Spencer Steer won't make the occasional start at first base. It also doesn't mean that Spencer Steer won't make the occasional start at second base when Matt McLain or Ellie De La Cruz gets a day off, because we've been told Ellie De La Cruz is going to get some days off. And when he does get those days off, Matt McLain is going to slide over to shortstop. So there will be some opportunities at second base as well. So while this won't be, 150 games of Spencer Steer in left field, we could be talking about 135 games, 140 games of Spencer Steer in left field, and with him moving around to provide fill-in the rest of the way. I kind of like this as the starting point, Jeff. I think this makes much more sense than trying to shoehorn some platoon of Blade and what are we going to do as the left fielder.
I like it too. And I will say this because I've been critical of Spencer Steer's defense in left field as he's been a Red. It's not been amazing, but it's also not been horrible. We're not talking about Nick Castellanos out there. We're not talking about Adam Dunn out there. We're not talking about, an Easter Island head in left field. We are talking about a guy that's just slightly below average. Last year, he did play enough left field that, at least according to Baseball Savant, he had 20 attempts. Now he had a rough time with those 20 attempts because Baseball Savant says, well, he should have made the play 89% of the time, and instead he only made it 75% of the time. So he saw a lot of plays go past him that should not have. But years before that, when you look at 2024, 2023, he was much closer to what the estimated success rate was, and he was only a couple of outs below league average when it comes out above average. So I really feel like for anyone that is super worried about the defensive alignment with this, I think he's every bit as good as if you would have put it together where he faces left-handed pitchers in left field and where some version of Benson and Blade. Blenson?
Oh, don't even start. Don't
Blenson.
dare.
Blenson, yes. That's what it is. The combination of Benson and Blade. No, but I still think that defensively it's not going to be that much better or worse if that were to be the case.
Isn't the combination of Benson and Blade?
Well, you can ask Munetaka Murakami about that, but when it comes to left field, I feel like this is the right decision as long as it does not seem to bear itself out in a negative way during spring training.
Yeah, I cracked myself up. I am much more worried about the Reds putting a lineup together every single day that's going to just absolutely go. I need this team to score runs. And the difference between Spencer Steer providing 80% of the plays he should make versus 90% of the plays he should make, the difference in what the lineup can be with that configuration, I think more than makes up for that 10%. And I want the top 5 or 6 of this lineup every single day for pitchers to worry about it. And the Reds are close to that now. Depending on how they configure things, the first 6 outs of this lineup are not going to be easy outs to get. There's going to be a lot of potential for run scoring. So I'm excited about that. I will trade that off and have the defense. I like what it means for Sal Stewart and his opportunity. I do want to continue to caution that we don't do that thing we do here in the city of Cincinnati, which is expect him to be the MVP right out of the gate. He's still got a lot to learn. He's still got a long way to go, but I think the talent is there. And having seen him in person at Reds Fest, I believe he has put in the work to be ready. I think he has the work ethic. You can't do the things he did this offseason and not be dedicated to getting better and improving your craft. I think that he is. Terry Francona clearly believes in him. So while still continuing to preach caution, I like this for Sal Stewart. I like the opportunity that he's being presented with.
I think it's interesting, though, that Terry Francona is coming out so much in support of Sal Stewart, because Terry Francona is one of those guys that he has said before, there's like a threshold that he looks at before he really feels like he knows a guy. And a lot of times that's 1,000 at-bats is what he's talking about. So there's a lot more conservative nature of that evaluation than I think a lot of people would expect. But at the same time, he's not seeing 1,000 at-bats from Sal Stewart to know him. So I feel like for him to already feel this way is encouraging. He's seeing something in Sal Stewart that he really likes. And the fact that he is saying that Spencer Steer is going to see the lion's share of the time in left field is that confidence boost that I think that Sal Stewart should get from his manager. Now, I'm not saying he should be up in the top third of the lineup just yet. He should earn that spot for sure. But I like the fact that they're opening up a large amount of playing time for Sal Stewart this year.
Yeah, Sal Stewart should be 6'7", somewhere in there. You know what I mean? Just down a little deeper in the lineup. But
that's what the kids do, right? 6'7".
Well, yeah, 6'7". I don't do it anymore because of adults like us.
Maybe SEO,
which is great.
The algorithm
every adult for the next 3 months needs to continue to make fun of the 6'7" thing. The kids will stop.
Maybe we'll kill it. Yeah.
The one thing with Sal Stewart, Terry Francona has really leaned into the mentoring part of dealing with Sal Stewart. We learned from Terry directly when he was talking during Reds Fest that during the off season where Sal was doing all this extra work and getting in shape and dropping pounds, he was texting Terry pictures and updates and communicating on daily with Terry Francona about the work he was doing and the work that he was putting in and the results that he was having. And I think that goes a long way. You know, Terry hasn't seen 1,000 at bats, but Terry got to see firsthand the work ethic this entire offseason.
Yep.
He saw the dedication to the improvement. And I think that factors in. That's a piece of, I think, Terry being willing to say, well, you know what we can do then? We can fix this weakness over here with Spencer Steer and not have a drop off over here at first base. And I love that for the Reds. I love that for what it means for the 2026 season and their ability to score runs.
Yeah, it's clear that Sal Stewart and Spencer Steer are going to be linked this year, because for the Reds to come out and say so early on in spring training that they are okay moving a Gold Glove finalist off of the position that he was a Gold Glove finalist at, that's just telling you all the confidence that they have in Sal Stewart to go crazy this year.
Well, there are some other spots up for grabs. Jeff Carr thinks there's 2 bullpen openings. I don't agree. There's just one. We're going to tell you who's fighting for it coming up next.
The Reds are headed out to Goodyear, which means it's time for you to get ready for baseball season as well over on FanDuel. So many preseason futures bets when it comes to the Reds, whether you're talking about win total over-unders, their odds to win the division, their odds to win the National League. And they've even got individual stuff now that Eugenio Suarez and all his star power are in town. We're looking at Eugenio Suarez over-under for home runs for the season. FanDuel has it set at 33.5. And if you know Gino, you know GABP, and I'm smashing that over. I feel like he's got at least 40 in him, which, by the way, there are odds on that too. For him to hit 40 or more home runs, odds on that are plus 270. You can check out all of this over on FanDuel. As you get ready for baseball season here in spring training, FanDuel's got you covered all the way, getting you excited, even more so, for opening day. Not too far away. Head on over to FanDuel right now.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can follow us on pretty much every single audio podcasting app that there is. If you find one we're not on and you need us to be there, message Jeff. He can probably make it happen for you. Also, over in the audio feed lives the Everydayer Club, the ad-free version of Locked On Reds, $5 a month, $50 a year. It also gets you the Discord server with every single Locked On host. The link for that's down in the show description. Speaking of Gino there during your FanDuel read, I saw on social media that you got your Good Vibes Only t-shirt from Cincy Shirts. That thing looks great.
I'm excited about it, and it already feels nice and comfy too. I've tried it on.
Love that for you. All right, let's get into this bullpen, because you think there's 2 openings. The 7th and the 8th spot in the Reds bullpen you think is open. I disagree. I'm going to just say right now the 7th man in the Reds bullpen for 2026 is Connor Phillips. We looked at him as being a bridge guy after the results of last season with what the Reds had left over. But with the moves they made, it continued to push him down. It did not push him out. For me, he's the 7th guy. His stuff plays too well when he is on. The other guys that you're looking at competing for that 8th spot, I don't think have the stuff to push Connor Phillips out. Unless he just has a complete meltdown like he did a few years ago where he forgot how to pitch, I don't see any scenario where he's not in this Reds bullpen.
I tend to agree with you. It's just the walk rate for me is something that makes it hard for me to write him in pen. Probably got him in pencil, but I got the eraser handy just in case. But he had a walk rate of over 4 per 9 last year. His strikeout rate was phenomenal. It was over 11 per 9. And he only pitched 20. I had it up.
25.
I leave it up. 25 innings last year. So to say that we know who he is through 25 innings, I still have a little bit of room for error when it comes to my evaluation of Connor Phillips. So I'm leaving that open a little bit. The other thing is, though, the guys that he is competing with, and Zach Maxwell and Luis May, have very similar makeups where they get a lot of strikeouts and they get a lot of walks. And how many of each are they going to do? We saw Luis May when he was going, and we saw Luis May when he wasn't. So we know what that looks like. So all told, I think you're right. I think that Connor Phillips can beat out those guys. The reason that I did not put Sam Moll in the same conversation as Connor Phillips is that I think that he's probably going to make this opening day bullpen, unless he shows up the way that he did last year, which, as all reports indicated, he was out of shape, not ready to go. He was not having the best command. His velo wasn't to the point that they expected it to be before opening day, and that's the reason he wasn't on the opening day roster. Unless he does that again, at which point he absolutely deserves to not be on a major league roster, then he will be, because he has no options. And we know how the Reds operate in these cases. If a guy has a major league contract, is on the 40-man roster, and doesn't have any options left, generally, unless he just looks like he has no clue what's going on the diamond, he's going to make the opening day roster. So I would expect him to be the last spot. And then Terry Francona's got 3 left-handers that he can draw from, that as long as Sam Moll doesn't show, if he is much more like the 2024 version of Sam Moll and much less like the 2025 version, then I think that will be a pretty good move.
Yeah, I think I'm going to begrudgingly agree with you that that's how this is going to play out. I think you play the options game here. You put Sam Moll as your 8th guy in the bullpen, and you see how he does. Meanwhile, you stash Zach Maxwell and Luis May down in Louisville. You have them doing their things and ready to go. In my mind, I would think Zach Maxwell is your next man up in this competition, unless something really crazy happens with Luis May out in Goodyear during spring training. You look at Zach Maxwell, he only pitched in 8 big league games, 10 total innings in 2025. But in those 10 innings, Jeff, he had a strikeout rate of 11.7 per 9, and his walk rate was 3.6. So of the guys we're talking about, Zach Maxwell had the best walk rate. So I would imagine he is that next guy. He's that 9th guy for the Reds bullpen that gets called up if they have to play an extra innings game the night before, or a doubleheader, or all the things that give you that extra pitcher in the bullpen. I would think that would be Zach Maxwell. So reluctantly, I agree with you. Now listen, I hope Sam Moll goes back to being good Sam Moll, because 3 good lefties in your bullpen, that's a luxury. That is something that not every Major League Baseball team has. And that would give the Reds an advantage. And I love that. So I want Sam Moll to have that success. But I do like having Zach Maxwell kind of waiting in the wings with the things that he can do when he's on. Give me Big Sugar with the adrenaline pumping. That guy is scary.
Shug. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, dude, he's so tall, so big. I understand why he's called Big Sugar.
Listen, there are not a lot of times in life where I feel tiny. And standing next to him,
Fest,
I'm just like, hi, how are you? Looking up at this guy. He made me feel minuscule.
I want to see, and I don't know what situation this would happen, but I want to see Zach Maxwell close out a game and then Matt McClain try to give him a high five. Like, I want to see that happen at some point this season. But no, I agree with you. And I think that to remind people of Sam Moll and how good he was the last couple of years that weren't 2025, there was a statistic that I talked about, and I need to bring this statistic back out, brush it up, or dust it off, and we'll talk about it at some point this spring training. But it was a statistic where a relief pitcher came into a ball game, got at least 3 outs, gave up 0 base runners, walks, or hits, and got at least 1 strikeout. Sam Moll had the best percentage of any Reds relief pitcher for the years 2023 and 2024. So I would expect that if he can get back to that, that's only going to add to the value of this bullpen, because I haven't looked at guys like Pierce Johnson, Caleb Ferguson, and Brock Burke in the lens of that statistic just yet, but I have to imagine that they're pretty good at that as well. So we're going to see a lot of those types of appearances from the guys that Terry Francona is going to be able to call on out of that bullpen.
Yeah, if 2024 Sam Moll shows up, walks through that door, that guy was pretty good. 48 games, 3.35 ERA, strikeout per 9 of 9.1 with a walk per 9 of 3.3. That guy as your 8th guy in the bullpen, I'll take that all season long, Jeff.
Yeah, if you're talking about a dude, and the other statistic to get excited about when it comes to Sam Moll from 2024 is the fact that he faced 22 inherited runners. And how many did he allow to score, Steve? One more than that. He allowed one inherited runner to score in 22 inherited runners in 2024. So I really think that there's a lot to like about Sam Moll tapping back into what 2024 was for him. And with him not having any options, he's got a little bit of a leg up to make that opening day bullpen. But that is where we'll end today's podcast. Thanks, everybody, so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds. We're going to be with you all throughout spring training, so make sure that you're subscribed and get daily updates from us as we talk about the Cincinnati Reds, getting you set for opening day and what the Boston Red Sox are going to bring to town. We're going to be all over it here. And you can always know that Sully is going to be all over the league every single day. If you're listening, make sure you go check out Locked On MLB. Or if you're watching, just hang on. We've got a Locked On Sports Today 24/7 feed of all the biggest stories in sports that Locked On has to cover. That's right here, right after this feed on YouTube. But as for Steve and myself, you know that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
Short jokes. Matt McLean's short jokes. Way to keep our guy happy with us.
I mean, he always high fives Ellie anyway. He knows how tall people